Hello and welcome or welcome back. Today I'm talking about my spring knitting plans for 2025. Okay, hello, welcome back. I've got spring knitting plans for you today. So they're going to be interesting. They're going to be fun. I'm trying to be very realistic this spring. That's one of my goals for myself, is just like be kind and realistic for myself. And so I still have kind of the inspiration behind my themes, some goals that I'm hoping to check off from my 2025 knitting bingo, and then some patterns that we'll talk about. And I've got all the yarn with me because one of my goals is knit only from stash. So let's get into it. For this, I'm going to be screen sharing the whole time. I just feel like that's going to be the easiest format. So I'm going to go into the tiny little corner of the screen now, and we will talk about these plans. So I plan everything in Notion. So what you're looking at right now is my spring knitting plan Notion board. So you can see I've got the nice backdrop. I always choose a little emoji for each season of knitting. This year, spring is a pigeon, or I guess this could be another bird, but it looks like a pigeon to me. I've got the dates, and then I've got my table up here. Ignore it right now because I'm going to talk about my inspiration first. So my inspiration for this season is soft or romantic academia. I've talked before about dark and light academia. I made a whole knit your aesthetic video about it. But for this season, I did just accept a PhD program. So I'm starting my PhD in the fall. And so I'm feeling very academic, even though it's, 6 months away. But I'm feeling very academic right now, but I also am feeling very like cozy and soft and want more pastels than you typically see in the dark light academia aesthetics, which are typically very like brown and beige and gray. And so I was kind of thinking of like, okay, I like the styles of the academia outfits, especially I'm going back into academia. And so I want to kind of bring that in for myself, but I also want color. And so I kind of was calling this soft academia in my head. And when I was searching for things that I wanted, I saw some people calling it romantic academia, which you can see down here is like pink with academia fits. And so yeah, I've chosen some outfits. There's still a lot of beige here, but I really like this like pop of blue in a sweater vest. I like the jeans in this outfit a lot. Like there's this nice cardigan and nice top, but I like the jeans kind of bring it down a little bit from like super stylish academia, because I still am going to college in Colorado and we are a pretty casual culture, so I'm not going to show up every day in like a pantsuit. And so I like the jeans, but the nice cardigan with the rolled sleeves. For some reason, rolled sleeves always feel very academic to me. And like, yeah, I like that a lot. I like this romantic academia with this sweater with the big horseshoe cables and the pink and roses and like a nice pinafore dress over a collared shirt, I think is lovely. I love this outfit, this sweater specifically. I kind of want to do a sweater like that with the what collar. It's called a collar. I don't know why I blanked on the word collar, but I love this collar and the tweed and the boots. I think that's so cute. And yeah, it's pretty much all beige, but it just feels like a little bit more romantic or soft girl than traditional academia looks. And then these are some more like soft girl looks, which is another aesthetic that I might make a video about someday, but just cozy, light colors, pinks, stuff like that. And I specifically am really loving like the bows here in the hair. I'm finally growing my hair out more, and so I can like really do that and like do fun stuff with my hair. And so I might make some like hair accessories at some point. And I love this pink cabled sweater, and this person's not wearing any knitwear, but I like the vibe of it. And so I included it. And then finally, I've got another hair bow thing. I guess I'm having a moment with the half updo hair and a bow and just a nice big sweater. Looking for books, but it's not like overly pretentious outfits. I don't know. Yeah, it's just academia style, but a little bit chiller and a little bit more color. And so that's kind of where I'm going for myself. I've kind of written for colors. I'm looking at pastel and neutral colors and kind of watercolor vibes of like not just like I have a few variegated yarns I'm looking at where I want them to look more like watercolors and just kind of flowy color, I guess. And like the tones I'm looking at are all kind of lighter, which you see more often in watercolor. So it's not exactly like watercolor looks, but that's kind of what I'm thinking in my head. And then I have also, as part of my planning process, I wanted to go through my bingo that I made for this year. So instead of doing like intentions or planning and big goals for this year, I decided to make a bingo card for myself. And so this is where it currently stands as of the end of February. And so I identified a few goals on here that I think I can or I really want to prioritize in spring. And so I helped shape my goals around that as well for this season, or my knitting plans I kind of shaped partially around my knitting bingo for this season. And so here's my bingo board. And then the squares that I want to complete or am eyeing as like probably will or really want to prioritize are the following. So first, I want to accomplish my 3-month yarn ban. I've finished 2 months of it, so if I just get through March without buying any yarn, there we go, check. I want to knit with potentially some Explorer Knits yarn, which I have and I'll show you in the plans. I want to reknit my Friday slipover, which I did not put in this list, but is actually one of my knitting plans. So let me write it so that it's official. I want to reknit my Friday slipover. I'm looking at finishing all of my seasonal knitting plans this season, so I intentionally am making like a realistic list for myself so that I can complete them all. I want to knit from a patterned book. I have multiple books and I have 2 plans that could both come from a patterned book. I want to potentially design with cables or lace, which is this square here. And then I want to use my Show Bunny yarn. And so that's this square here. I might not, we'll talk about it in the plans, but that's one of the ones I'm eyeing. So I've got quite a few squares I could potentially check off. I'm not going to get a bingo by checking off all of them. They're just like all over the square, all over the board, but they will help me later on in the year to actually get a bingo because I'll have a lot more things started, which is exciting. So now, getting into the meat of it here very quickly, I guess. I've got my plans to talk about. So I only have 3 knitting plans for this season. The 3 knitting plans does encompass 5 projects, but I'm giving myself a choice between 2 projects for 2 of the plans. And so I've got 3 things like I want to complete, and then 2 of them have options within. And so we'll start with the one that doesn't, and that's reknitting my Friday slipover. And so I made this slipover here over a year ago. I made it in January 2024. I actually knit it with Hannah of Pages and Pearls. It was a fun little knit along we did. And mine just grew a lot more than I expected when I blocked it. And I love this fabric. I think it grew a lot because this fabric has silk and alpaca in it. And so it just kind of grew, which is fine, but it's way too big for me to comfortably wear it. This V-neck is deep and these arms are deep, and yeah, so it's been on my list to reknit it for a long time. And now that I'm like gonna go back to school, I want to wear a sweater vest that I made to class. Like, this is perfect for, like, this is, I feel like, the epitome of what I mean when I say like soft or romantic academia. Like watercolor, beautiful cotton candy sky, pattern here, pink edges, sweater vest silhouette. Like, I can wear this with a collared shirt and look beautiful. Like, just perfect. It's perfectly what I want, but it's way too big. And so I'm finally going to reknit it this season because it just needs to happen. It'll be quick. Like, I need to do some math because my gauge is just so drastically different that I need to do some math. But then I can just reknit it. It'll be fine. I also think like the back here is just straight across, so it's just a straight back. And so I probably will add some shaping to that so that it hopefully sits a little nicer. So it is the Friday Slipover V-neck pattern by Petite Knit. But I'm basically writing a pattern for this that I wouldn't release because it's just the Friday Slipover V-neck with modifications for my gauge and to add a few increases. So I'm semi-counting this as a design for myself because it is like, I have the basis of, okay, I want like a broken ribbed drop shoulder V-neck slip over, and I've got a pattern that tells me like some things. Like I do really like the way the increases are done in the back here, so I'll keep that. But I also am going to have to change all of the stitch counts and add some shaping to the back. And so it's like kind of a hybrid, but again, would not be a release pattern because it's just Petite Knit's pattern with some modifications. But yeah, I do really want to modify or redo this season so that I can wear it, because it would be perfect for like the first day of classes, which I want to finish it in spring because I also want to wear it now and through the summer, but it's going to be perfect for fall. And it also feels like an exciting, like, look, I made sweater vest for fall. Like there's not much I can do for the grad program right now or the PhD program right now. And so this is like my PhD project. So that's my first plan, is to reknit that Friday slipover. Next, I'm going to talk about this one. So next, I do want to make a cardigan this season. I either want to make one out of lace. So I either want to make this, which is the olive cardigan, which I've had in my queue for a very long time. I own this pattern already, and it's a beautiful, simple lace motif that makes these leaves. So I do really love this pattern. I love the double knit neckline, and I already have buttons for it, I believe. Do I? I might not, but I can get buttons for it pretty easily. And ooh, I think I'm gonna make buttons for this. Yes, this one I want to make buttons for. I have a friend who does pottery, and so she and I at some point are going to make buttons together. And so I do really want to make this. It's been in my plans for a long time. I have yarn for it. And so the yarn I'd use is this, which is from Explorer Knits. It's the colorway Docile, and I have both their Suri Alpaca base and the Earthy sock base, which is a non-superwash merino yarn. And so I've got these two. I've got 3 of each of these, so should be enough to make the sweater, and they're beautiful. It's basically like the same color as the shirt I'm wearing. So I want to use this yarn. It's been in my stash for forever, and it's on my bingo card, so want to use it. But we'll see if I feel more pulled towards the other pattern. And so the other pattern that I could potentially make is a design that I have. So this is part of my designing board, but I want to design something that I've swatched for, and I've shown the swatch in the past. And so this is the swatch of a drop shoulder cardigan I want to make with these beautiful cables where it crosses up here. There's this little design in the middle here. Like I love a little cross detail here. I think this would be just an absolutely stunning cardigan. And I'll probably have this all over, including sleeves, body, like everywhere. And so I want to do this, and I am excited about it. It would be a lot of thinking, so I think I'm going to finish the few sample knits I have right now and finish my other color work design, and then see if I feel ready to take on another design challenge, or if I want a little break and to knit a pre-made pattern, which would be this one. So we'll see which direction I feel pulled. Both would be very fun, I think, but it's just a matter of how I feel in the moment. So both get me a bingo square, and both would be a beautiful cardigan that fits my aesthetic to add to my wardrobe. So we shall see which one I end up going with. And then my final plan for this season is a pair of socks, and I have 2 yarns that they could be made out of, and I have 2 patterns for each yarn that I could use. So this is definitely more of, I just want a pair of socks in one of these yarns. And ironically, both of these yarns are named have bunny in the name. So I'll start with this one. This is Show Bunny, which is a sock set from the Yarn Addict, who's now Little Fiber Co. And I got this in 2023 for Christmas from one of my friends. It was one of the La Mercerie sock sets that they do. So it's like a winter sock set, and it's beautiful. I've had it for a full year, over a full year, and just haven't wanted to use it because of how pretty it is, and I want the perfect pattern for it. And I'm sick of waiting for the perfect pattern for things. So I would like to use this at some point this year. It's one of my bingo squares, and this might be the season for it. So I've thought that for this one, I could either do the Colorwork Cuff Club in the August pattern, which is this beautiful mid-century modern flower motif here, or I could do the totally rad rib socks, which are a nice sock with three, it's a nice ribbed sock with three bands of color, because I do have this contrast color. Although I'm kind of worried that this isn't really a contrast color, because you can see there's purple down here. And so it's not quite like a contrast. So I'm not sure how Colorwork would look with that. It might be slightly muddy because there are areas of this color in here, but I think it should stand out enough. And same with the ribbed socks, if it's a large enough section of color that this will be distinct enough. So thinking one of those for this. If you have other suggestions, let me know, because I'm kind of not sure what to do with like I could just do contrast or like heels and toes with this, or just take this out of the equation and maybe use another color. But if you have any suggestions for using these two together, I'd love to hear them. Otherwise, those are kind of what I'm thinking, but I might have to rethink that if I start them and it doesn't look good. So I'd know pretty quickly if it didn't look good on either of them. So it's not the biggest risk, but those are what I'm thinking for this guy. And then the other yarn that I might potentially use is this yarn here, which is called Bunny Hill and or Bunny Slopes. Bunny Hill. It's Bunny Slopes. So this is Bunny Slopes, which is from Poppy and Spruce Fibers. And the fun thing about this yarn is that it's actually inspired by a photo of me as a child. And so it's a picture of me in the mountains getting ready to ski in my like very 2000s inspired outerwear, ski wear, which is why there's all this bright colors here. And then, you know, with a backdrop of snow and the evergreens. And so I have two skeins of this, one for me, one for my mom. And at some point I'm going to make matching socks for us, but I'm just going to tackle my socks maybe this season. And I might not get to them this season if I do the other ones, because I do have a lot of plans, but I really want to use this yarn because I really want to wear this yarn on my feet because it's so pretty and so special. So for this one, I'm thinking that I will either do the Hermione's Everyday Socks pattern, which is a free pattern I've made before and love. It's actually one of my most worn pairs of socks. And so it's a really nice, simple stitch. Looks like this. It's, yeah, a textured, simple motif. You can see lots of examples here. Kind of looks like broken stitch or broken rib, but it's not. It's slightly different than that, and so I might do that, or I might make the snippet socks, which are from the 52 Weeks of Socks book, so I can knit from a book, and they're also beautiful. I think Ash made these a while ago from Smash Knits, and she made them in a super fun variegated yarn that had some bright colors, and so I think that this would translate well. Like, it is a slightly complex motif here where there's, you know, the lace in the front here and the shaping here to make these shapes, but it's big enough that it won't get totally lost with all the variegation going on. So I think that these could be really fun, and they've been on my list for a long time. So yeah, one of these two is going to end up as these socks one day, and it's just which one of these do I want to knit with, and then I'll decide the pattern from there, because I don't know yet. Either of them will get me a square if I do knit from a book with this one, or I will get to check off the square for using this yarn. So both get me squares on my bingo card, and both kind of meeting my inspiration. I mean, socks I don't feel like need to fit into the knitting inspiration because it's socks, but I think that both of them could kind of be a fun little touch on the academia. More this one than the super bright colors, but still. So yeah, that's my knitting inspiration for this season. I feel like it's slightly boring because it's not that much, but I am really trying to be intentional this season about what I add to my knitting plans, what I'm adding to my own plate, because I do want to prioritize finishing up some projects left over from winter, finishing up some sample knits. I'll probably do at least 2 or 3 sample knits this season, so that is going to take a lot of time as well. So just trying to really be intentional with what I add to my plate because there's a lot going on, and I want to set myself up for success so that I can complete my knitting plans, which isn't always my goal. Sometimes I treat knitting plans more like a menu for myself of I just am inspired by these few things, and I've kind of done that for myself where I have either or knitting plans. But I this season do want to like set intentional goals so I can just feel good at the end of the season of like, okay, 3 things, check. So there we go. I'm very excited about them. I would love to hear what your inspirations for the season are, what your plans are, if you have any. Do you do knitting plans yourself, or do you just kind of more follow where the season or where each day and week is taking you knitting wise? I'd love to know. So thanks so much for watching, and I will talk to you again soon. Okay, bye.